For decades, we've told ourselves a comforting story about the universe next door. It goes like this. Jupiter's moon Europa is a frozen biological paradise. Beneath that scarred and cracked icy shell, there's a global ocean twice the size of Earth's. It's warm, it's salty, and it's churning with the same volcanic energy that powers life at the bottom of our own seas. We convinced ourselves that if life exists anywhere else, it's swimming right there in the dark. But as we approach the final stretch of the race to get there, the story is changing, and it's changing fast. New data from 2026 has shattered the optimistic consensus. We are starting to realize that Europa might not be a nursery, it might be a tomb. The reality of this ocean world is far more violent and far more complicated than the science fiction dreams we grew up with. We used to worry about drilling through the ice. Now we have to worry if there's anything alive down there worth drilling for. Because the latest models suggest something terrifying. The seafloor of Europa might be stone dead. No volcanoes, no heat, no energy. If that's true, then that massive liquid ocean is just a sterile tank of cold water waiting in the dark for billions of years. But just as this bad news hit, another discovery emerged from the data, a mechanism so strange and unexpected that it might save the chances for life after all.
To understand why the narrative has shifted so violently, you have to look at the surface. Europa is bombarded by Jupiter's radiation belts. It's a cosmic particle accelerator that slams into the ice day and night. For a long time, we thought this was a good thing. That radiation splits water molecules apart, creating oxygen and other chemical fuels. We calculated that tons of this oxygen could be raining down into the ocean, powering a massive ecosystem. It was a beautiful theory, but reality just checked in. Data from the Juno spacecraft, analyzed in 2024 and 2025, revealed a crushing disappointment. The surface isn't producing oxygen at the massive rates we hoped for. Instead of thousands of kilograms per second, it's producing closer to 12. That is a starvation diet compared to the buffet we expected. And it gets worse. That oxygen is useless if it stays stuck on the surface. It needs to get down into the water. And standing in the way is the ice shell itself. We used to hope the ice was thin, maybe just a few miles deep, crackling with open fissures that let the ocean breathe. But recent microwave readings from 2026 paint a much thicker picture. The rigid frozen barrier is likely 18 miles thick. That's 29 kilometers of rock-hard ice. It's not a thin sheet, it's a planetary fortress. Those cracks we see on the surface, they might just be shallow scratches that don't connect to the deep water at all. So we have a starving surface separated from a deep ocean by an impenetrable wall. If biology is a game of connecting fuel to life, Europa is playing hard to get.
But the oxygen problem is just the tip of the iceberg. The real crisis is happening at the bottom. On Earth, the deep ocean is alive because the seafloor is alive. Tectonic plates rip apart, magma rises up, and hydrothermal vents spew hot, mineral-rich water. That chemical energy feeds the bacteria that feed the rest of the food chain. We assumed Europa worked the same way. We thought Jupiter's gravity squeezed the moon hard enough to keep the rocky core hot and molten. But a landmark study published in early 2026 by Paul Byrne and his team has thrown cold water on that fire. Their models suggest that Europa's rock is too strong. The tidal forces from Jupiter might not be enough to crack the mantle. Instead of a dynamic volcanic seafloor, Europa might have a stagnant, solid bottom, a quiet seafloor. Think about what that means. Without volcanoes, there are no hydrothermal vents. Without vents, there are no minerals pumping into the water. No sulfur, no iron, no chemical gradients. The battery that powers deep-sea life on Earth might simply be missing on Europa. If this model holds true, Europa is a born wet world that stayed stagnant.
an ocean that has sat still for 4 billion years. Chemical equilibrium is the enemy of life. Life needs flow, it needs reaction, it needs chaos, and a quiet seafloor is the ultimate stillness. This realization sent a shockwave through the scientific community. It seemed like the dream of finding alien life was slipping through our fingers. But nature usually finds a way to surprise us. And just as the door closed on the seafloor, a window opened in the ceiling.
If the bottom of the ocean is dead, then the energy has to come from the top. But we just established that the ice is 18 miles thick. How does anything get through? Enter the theory of viscous dripping. This is the game changer proposed by researchers Green and Cooper in January 2026. They looked at the ice shell not as a solid rock, but as a slow-moving fluid, like a lava lamp in slow motion. Here is how it works. The surface of Europa is covered in salts, magnesium, chlorides, sulfates. When ice is full of salt, it gets heavy, denser than the pure ice below it, and gravity does not like heavy things sitting on top of light things. Over thousands of years, these heavy, salty patches of ice begin to sink. They form massive blobs that slowly detach from the surface and plunge downward through the shell. It's a process called crustal delamination. These sinking blobs act like elevators. They carry the oxygen and the nutrients baked by radiation on the surface and deliver them directly into the deep ocean. The models show this journey takes about 30,000 years. In geological time, that is a blink of an eye. This changes everything. It means the ice shell isn't a barrier, it's a conveyor belt. It's actively feeding the ocean from above. Even if the seafloor is dead quiet, the ceiling is raining down chemical food. This mechanism could sustain a biosphere without a single volcano. It wouldn't be an ecosystem powered by heat from below, but by chemistry from above. A slow, cold metabolism running on salt and radiation. It's not the life we imagined, but it's a pathway that actually works in the physics models.
To really grasp why Europa is such a puzzle, you have to look at its sibling, Io. These two moons orbit the same planet. They are roughly the same size, but they couldn't be more different. Io is a hellscape of constant volcanic eruptions. It's the most geologically active body in the solar system. It's turning itself inside out every few million years. Europa, sitting just next door, is an ice ball. Why the difference? New research from 2026 has clarified this sibling rivalry. It turns out the difference was baked in at birth. Io was born dry. It formed in a region so hot that water couldn't survive. Europa formed just far enough away to accrete massive amounts of ice. This matters because it tells us about stability. Europa didn't just melt recently. It has likely been an ocean world for billions of years. That time factor is crucial. Biology is slow. It needs eons of stability to evolve from simple chemistry into complex cells. If Europa had a chaotic history, freezing solid and melting over and over, life would never get a foothold. But the born wet theory suggests a 4 billion year run. That is a long time for nature to run experiments. Even with a quiet seafloor, even with limited oxygen, billions of years is a lot of time to get lucky. So we have a stable ocean, we have a nutrient delivery system from the sinking ice, we have the ingredients. Now we just need to go there and taste the water.
This is where the Europa Clipper comes in. Launched in late 2024, this spacecraft is currently sailing through the dark, gaining speed for its arrival in 2030. And it is carrying the most sophisticated laboratory ever sent to the outer solar system. But here's the catch. Clipper isn't going to land, it isn't going to drill, it's going to swoop. The radiation at Europa is so intense that it would fry the spacecraft's brain if it stayed in orbit around the Moon. So Clipper will orbit Jupiter instead. It will perform 49 daredevil dives past Europa, getting as close as 15 miles to the surface. Then it will retreat to deep space to heal its electronics before diving in again. During those flybys, it's going to do something incredible. It's going to taste the atmosphere. Micrometeorites are constantly hitting Europa, kicking up dust and ice particles. Clipper has an instrument called SUDA, the Surface Dust Analyzer. It will catch these tiny grains of ice and analyze their chemical makeup in real time. If those sinking salt blobs are real, Clipper should see the evidence in the surface chemistry. If there are organic compounds seeping up from the ocean, Clipper will detect them. It's like a detective sniffing for smoke to prove there's a fire in the basement. It also carries a radar system called Reason. This radar can peer 18 miles down through the ice. It will look for pockets of liquid water trapped in the shell. It will look for those sinking heavy blobs. It will finally tell us if the ocean is open for business or sealed off forever.
We are standing on the edge of a profound moment. For the first time in history, we aren't just guessing about alien life. We are flying a machine to go check. The next few years are going to be a roller coaster. As Clipper gets closer, and as the European JUICE mission arrives shortly after, we will start getting answers. But we need to be prepared for what we might find. There is a real possibility that Europa is dead, that the ocean is there, but it's sterile, a lonely, salty abyss that never sparked. That would be a tragedy in its own way. It would mean that life is incredibly rare, that even with all the right ingredients, something special is missing. But consider the alternative. Consider if Clipper detects complex organics or a chemical imbalance that can only be explained by biology. It wouldn't just mean finding bacteria. It would mean that life is a cosmic imperative, that wherever you put water and time, life finds a way. Even in the dark, even under 18 miles of ice, even without a sun, it would mean we are living in a biological universe. The dead sea floor theory might have scared us, but the dripping ice theory has given us hope. Europa is fighting to keep its secrets, but we are coming to unlock them.
The journey to Europa is more than a science mission. It's a test of our place in the cosmos. By 2030, we will begin to know the truth. Until then, we watch the data, and we wonder what is waiting in the water. What do you think is more terrifying? Finding out that the universe is teeming with life that we can't see? Or finding out that in all that endless ocean, we are truly, completely alone? Let me know your take in the comments.